Ken, could you do like a little like lightning round of what the different groups are?
Oh gosh. Okay. So the Boogaloo Boys, the term Boogaloo, it's so funny because it's like a pretty scary group that kill people, but it's like hard to take seriously with a name like that.
I know.
It sounds like a children's play, like a monster from a children's book or something.
Yeah.
But the Boogaloos, it refers to the coming civil war that they anticipate that they either anticipate will happen, or they not just anticipate will happen, but they want to bring it about. And so there's what's called an accelerationist strain within them. I'm getting into social sciences, so I'm sketching this stuff out for you. This is not going to be, this is physics.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give people the impression that all of this is like, sure. Written on the tablets of Mount Sinai or anything.
Right.
But, generally speaking, they tend to be ferociously anti-government. But again, that's sort of incoherent because the way in which they perceive government, like if you look at the chat logs or the stuff that was released from the Justice Department about these guys that were, allegedly trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan, they described how they were going to take her out and then, then it'd be over, freedom would reign. And clearly they don't have a whole lot of literacy about how government works,
right,
and chains of succession and things like that, if they think that it's just done once they carry out this alleged plot. But so, the Boogaloo Boys, they anticipate the Civil War coming. There are ones that think it has a racial and ethnic character to it, sort of like the American Civil War. There are other ones that don't, that are just like really, anti-government. And there are actually non-white people that are parts of the group. That's not to say that all of the group is like not white supremacist. It's just very complicated mix. But generally speaking, I would say that the unifying idea is this Civil War, and we've got to prep for it. So there's a lot of this prepper culture with weapons and things of that nature. And then also kind of trying to end up on the side of it that's going to be in power,
Yeah.
A brief snapshot. That's what I would say the Boogaloos are.
Yeah. And then Patriot Prayer and Proud Boys, and then militias. I mean, you don't have to define militias, but can you give us the Patriot Prayer and Proud Boys? And 3%ers. You can you don't have to do all of them.
Proud Boys are much more ethno-nationalist, I think. Gavin McInnes being the founder, he was
Vice.
he was a co-founder of Vice. It's so crazy, and it kind of makes sense in a way because these guys that know how to navigate media are going to be the ones that can whip up this kind of hysteria. That's what I think we really learned with Trump, which we had a bunch of warnings about. I mean, you've got Rob Ford and his antics in Canada prior to that. You have going back. Yeah, I grew up in California. It was like when Arnold Schwarzenegger won, that should have been a big.
Well, that was like the prototype election for like 2016. Like we should have looked back on that election and been like, oh, it's going to be porn stars and TV people running forever now. That was the prototype eletion.
100%.
Oh, right. Yeah, you both of those. Yeah.
I think it uniquely disadvantages the left too, because sort of like you guys are saying, there's some not just philosophical coherency, on the left, but also like a requirement for like material concessions that doesn't exist on the right. And also there's a big technocratic liberal component to the left that is never going to allow a reality show star to run just because they think it's sort of like improper or not completely unreasonably, but like I think this will always redound to the right, and that's the lesson that we've had hammered home for over a decade now. And it seems like it took Trump for people to kind of accept this. A lot of these groups, there's also, there's a lot of, it's kind of like cells exchanging DNA with each other.
Right.
Like there's people pass through these things a lot. And, you might be surprised how people throw on these identities like it's like a hat or something. And, it's sort of scary, but it's also sort of hopeful in my view, because I think it shows that you can de-radicalize. People can change their minds about things. It's not like you're necessarily an extremist for life and it's in your bones or anything.